Hi guys, Mary Poplin here from Imagineer Systems, and today I'm going to be showing you how to do interesting particle effects with Boris Continuum Complete. As you can see, I made you guys this lovely Valentine. Happy Valentine's Day from Boris Effects. So let's talk a little bit about how this is made. It's actually not too complicated. It looks like a more complicated cop than it is. What we essentially have is we have our solid background. It's just a pink color. And then on our solid background, we actually are using a Boris BCC Vignette. We've just selected a nice dark red color for our vignette, and we can increase the radius or decrease the radius. We have a lot of control here as to how this works, including smoothness, softness, etc. We've also made some particles for sparkles on our background using a sparkle 4-pointed flare ring from our image collection inside of our BCC Particles. We added some smoke as well, and you can see this is our cloud white smoke. And our smoke you can't see until we're over here, because it's a transition, but as you can see, some smoke to help add to the effect. And then we have our background heart particles here that are always behind our heart in the shot. We've made a simple EPS extrude using the BCC extruded EPS. I've just drawn a simple heart shape and loaded that in, and we'll go over all of this. I just want to show you the breakdown of this project. And then we've added some Happy Valentine's Day text and some BCC Continuum Complete text. And then the last thing we've done is we've added this particle wipe here. And the cool thing about this and the background hearts is that we are using hand animated custom sprites. So you can see we just go down here to our images, and then this we're going to pick image layer. And then, so we decide what image layer it is in our comp. In this case, the first one I used was the flying heart. You can see I've hidden all these below. They don't actually need to be visible in the comp, they just need to be present in the comp for you to load the layer in. And then we've also used Flying Bird, Flying Bird 2, and Flying Heart. Now, the reason I say Flying Bird is because I actually had used these images as a reference for my wings. To make my hearts, I essentially just made some roto shapes and then hand animated 12 frames of animation and just copied and pasted that. And you can see, because this is hand traditional animation, I took 12 frames of animation and turned it into 24 frames of animation so that it actually looks like it flies in a normal way as opposed to super, super, super fast. And then I offset the animation a little bit for the heart number 2. Same thing over here. We did some reference of wings, traced those, did some hand animation, and then offset the animation for a second one. So you can see the animation is offset by several frames. And there's really nothing to this, it's just hand animation using rotosplines. And again, this is the final that we end up with. So let's very quickly put a new one of these together. Let's go to Layer, New, Solid, pick a nice pink color, and hit OK. We have this large solid, doesn't do anything. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to go to BCC Vignette. And in BCC Vignette, we're going to pick a color. In this case, I'm going to pick like a dark red. And we're going to go to our composition solid settings, and we're going to make our solid settings the same size as the comp. That's a lot better. I'm going to do a multiply as my compositing blend. And I'm going to decrease my radius. And I'm going to increase my softness until I get something that looks really nice. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a Layer, New, Solid. I'm going to make this like a black solid. And I'm going to call this New Sparkles. And we're going to go to BCC Particles, BCC Particle Emitter 3D. Drop that onto my solid. You see how it's now passed through. In our particles, I'm going to go to our image collection, and we're going to pick a sparkle 4-pointed flare ring. And inside of my emitter, I'm going to have my emitter be the layer map. Actually, I'm going to have my emitter be a sphere. We're going to do a much higher birth rate. We're going to put our origin a little bit off screen, and we're going to have sparkles. Now, I think I actually want to increase their lifespan to about 8 or so. And I want to do a particle speed at like 25. I want to take their birth rate probably down to about 50, and I'm going to increase the particle random distance. I'm going to increase the particle random distribution. And you see how this is growing like over time? I actually want to change this to be constant, continuous, And then in fractal field, we're going to change this to 130. And direction is going to be forward. All right, and if we want to keep this from being clumped up like this, we can have the particles pre-run before they get into the comp. So in this case, we're going to pre-run them at 3.75. Maybe let's pre-run them for 20 seconds. Let's actually take the amount down, increase some of the randomness, and increase some of the distribution. And now you can see that we have some lovely sparkly particles. And you can tweak this however you want. The next thing we're going to want to do to duplicate our previous effect is we're going to want to make an extruded EPS. So we're going to go to Layer, New, Solid. We're going to call this New Heart EPS. Hit OK. And we're going to go to Extrude, BCC Extruded EPS, and we're going to drag it over here. So no external media file has been selected. Please use the external media file button to choose an external source. So we're going to do that. So we're going to go to external file here. Now, this up here is not where you load your images. This is where you load your Boris Effects presets, and they are across the board. And in fact, I'm going to include the presets for my particles with this demo. But for now, don't worry about this. So we're going to go to our load file, and we're going to load an EPS that we've made inside of Illustrator. And let's show you what that Illustrator file looks like. As you can see, we made a simple, completely outlined and clean EPS inside of Illustrator. And we've loaded it into our Extrude EPS comp. For the extrusion style, we have a lot of presets that we can mess with. So you can find whichever one you like. I like the basic shiny gray. And for the material, you can either use one of your own, or you can use some of our presets, just like this. So in this case, we've got a lovely metal chrome. We can increase the reflectivity if we want. We can increase the reflection scale if we want. We can change what is reflected, just like that. And then we can go ahead and use a pulse deformer to make it bounce. So let's go to our pulse deformer. And let's use breathing. And we're going to use bounce. And you can see that's probably a little bit more of a bounce than I would like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the amplitude to more like 15. Maybe 10. And we end up with a nice, wiggly, interesting heart. And let's just take this whole solid and drag it down to where the heart is in a location that we want. And now we have a bouncing heart over our particle background with our vignette. There we go. And if I'm not happy with the color, if I want it to be more pink, I can go to BCC, and I want to be lazy and not adjust the lighting, I can go to BCC Color Correct, drag it over, and I can increase the brightness, and I can change the hue to be more pink. And we end up with a really fast lighting change without having to actually change the lights. But you do have lighting controls inside of your extrude. I'm just trying to change this quickly without doing a whole lot of work. The next thing I want to do is create my smoke layer. And for our smoke layer, we're going to go to BCC Particles. We want Particle Emitter System 3D. We're going to drag that onto Smoke New. And inside our BCC Particle Emitter, what we're going to do is we're going to go to our emitter and go to our particles. Our particles, let's choose our particles. So in this case, we're going to do Smoke Turbulent. And let's go to Pre-run, and let's increase this. And let's pre-run it for like 5. And let's do the amount of smoke as much different. So let's do like smoke, let's do like 500. And let's do size random of like 100. And let's do a particle lifespan of like 20. And let's do a particle speed of like 20. Maybe 50. Back down in particles. Let's do some opacity changes. Let's do opacity like 10%. Maybe 5%. Yeah, 5%. That's much more subtle. And now we have smoke in our background as well. Let's drag that under our heart, just like that. And what you can see is there's really a lot of nice presets inside the BCC particle emitter that you can just drop into your comp and with very little tweaking get something that looks really nice. Now we actually want to do a transition here, so my smoke I'm going to actually bring to here, and my sparkles, my smoke, I'm going to crop to my original trading place, and then my original transition space. And then again, we're going to do the same thing for the sparkles. So we end up with a break between the two of these. We can actually do a really simple animation to make this blend off nicer. We can go to our opacity, and we can take this to about 0% here and 100% here. So we'll have this nice fade off. And again, same thing for our smoke layer. We're going to come in here and we're going to turn our opacity down to 0 and then jump over a couple frames and take our opacity up to 100. And that way our smoke will not just pop on, it'll fade in. And that's actually going to be really helpful in our transition. Same thing for our heart too. We're actually going to want our heart to disappear as well. So for our heart EPS, we're going to go to transform, opacity, and we're going to have it be 100 here, and we're going to make it drop down to 0 here. And this is how we are beginning our new transition. So from here, let's make our text. We're going to call this Happy Valentine's Day. And if we want, we can do the same thing to it where we trim the layers down. I can duplicate this layer, and we can drag this over here, and I can change the text to Particles are awesome, and we end up with a switch. But again, I want to do a nice fade, so we're going to do that same transform where we take the opacity down, we bring the opacity up, and from here we're also going to take the opacity to 0 and then bring it up. And another thing I like to do, because this is going to help with our transition, is I'm going to take our text and I'm actually going to animate it into a shrink. So we're going to take our scale and we're going to make a keyframe here, and then we're going to go to the end of our timeline and we're going to make this scale to 0. Actually, we can do that the other way. I was on the wrong layer. So we have particles grow onto the screen, and we can even animate the position if we want to try to keep it in the middle of the screen. So in this case, just like this. And we're going to do the same thing for our Happy Valentine's Day. So we're going to take our scale and position. Scale is going to be 100% here, and here it's going to be 0, and our position is going to be there. And then we're going to move our position to the middle, make sure it's on the right keyframe. There's our animation that's going to be hidden under our transform. The next thing I want to do is I want to make a new solid under our heart. So we're just going to go to Layer, New, Solid, and we're going to call this BG Flying Hearts. We're going to take our BCC Particles, BCC Particle Emitter. The emitter we're actually going to use for this is going to be our layer map, and the emitter layer is going to be our extrude. From here we're going to go to our particles, and instead of using an image collection, I'm going to do host image layers, and our image layer is going to be our flying heart. You see we end up with some flying hearts back there. We have another image that we can bring in, so I'm going to bring in flying heart 2. We're going to bring in flying bird and flying bird 2. And now that's going to give us a lot more random animations inside of our emitter. So for our birth rate, we're going to do 120. For our particle speed, we're going to do like 40. For our particle lifespan, again, we're going to do like 20. And then we're going to use opacity evolution to make these fall off. We're going to increase the size as well, a little bit. Now you see how these are upside down? We don't want that. So in our transform particle, we're going to randomize the orientation only about 30 degrees. And see, that way they're all upright, but tilted in 30 degrees either way. We can increase that to 45 as well. But I wouldn't go more than 45 if you want them to look like they're flying properly. Let's actually animate their lifespan. So in this case, their lifespan is going to be 5. Let's take the opacity down to about 70, because I want to feel like these blend. That makes them fit in the scene better. And then let's take the lifespan down to like 2. Alright, so now our hearts are coming from behind our heart and they're fading off into the distance. But from here, I actually want them to increase. So I'm going to take particle lifespan, and I'm going to increase the lifespan to like 20. And let's take particle size, and let's increase it to 100. Maybe 200. And let's take the particle birth rate. Let's increase it to 200. And let's take the speed random distribution and animate that as well to 180. And let's animate that lifespan to way longer. And let's take this to where there's no opacity fall off anymore. And let's go to Scale Master, and let's scale everything up so that they fill the entire backspace. Now what really sells this, after I'm done, is I go ahead and I go to BCC Film Glow. I drop that right on our flying hearts. And I want to take the intensity down to about 30. You can see I end up with something like super shiny. We're going to make this about 45 though. There we go, that's better. Now the last thing we want to do is we want to actually cover this wipe. So I'm going to make a new solid layer, and I'm going to use this as my new particle layer for my wipe. Alright, so we're going to make this heart particle wipe here. Now I'm going to just take the new heart EPS that I made and the flying hearts and the smoke and the sparkles away. And the reason I want to take them all away is because I need to make sure that they don't impede basically my performance. So we're going to go to BCC Particle Emitter 3D, drag it to Particle Wipe, and you can see it's set a default particle system up that we're going to alter. So we're going to come down here to our particles, and we're going to use a host image layers again, and we're going to grab our flying heart 2, flying bird layer, flying bird 2, and now we have our particle layer here. We're going to actually do directional, so we're going to go to emitter. I'm going to use the layer map, and emitter layer is going to be the heart particle wipe, and the direction is going to be right, and we're going to increase our birth rate by a lot, like we're going to do like 300, and we're going to do a particle lifespan of 20, and we're going to do a particle speed of like 60. For our size, we're going to do 100, maybe 200. 200 is better. We're going to do a size random of about 100, so we have a lot of variation. We're going to do opacity at like 80, and maybe we want our birth rate to be 200. Yeah, I think that's better. And then we want our spread to be larger, maybe 100, maybe 80. 80 is better. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to just do a simple animation on this. So we're actually going to go to layer solid settings, and we're going to make our solid like much wider. So we're going to make our solid settings like 6,000 wide and like only about 1,200 tall, just like that. And now our particle is way off screen. That's okay, because we're going to use it as a wipe. So we're going to come in here to transform. We're going to go to position, and we're going to find out where our particles are. And if we don't want to wait on this, we can just bring it down to quarter res, and this way we can kind of see what's going on. We're going to take their speed down to about 40, I think. And let's take their position back so that we don't end up with any clipping. And let's just go ahead and make sure these are off screen. Alright, so now that we've animated that, we're just going to go back to our flying hearts, other layer. We're going to grab our Film Glow, we're going to drop it onto our new layer, and so now you can see we end up with this nice Film Glow transition. Alright, so from there you may want to tweak your animation a little bit, but that's pretty much the long and short of how to make it. So with just a little bit of work, you can get something that looks this good without having to go totally crazy. If you have any questions, I am Mary Poplin with Imagineer Systems. We're going to include the particle presets from this tutorial for you guys for your downloading pleasure. I hope you learned a little bit more about Boris Continuum Complete, and specifically, I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial on Particle Emitter 3D. And we hope that you have a wonderful Valentine's Day.